Hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel if you are new, and welcome back if you're already a subscriber. Today's video is going to be a Hobonichi with me of my Ostara. And if you're sitting there going, what the hell? Ostara was in March? It's definitely not March. That's because I'm behind. And even though I've also said, hey, May is all up to date, it is. There's just that nice, lovely patch in between that needs a little bit of catch up and love. And so while I have been catching up, I have been filming bits and pieces as I do them in different styles. So my goal with these Hobonichi videos is, one, to kind of get some content out there about it, because there's kind of like none. But also just kind of show some different ways and strategies, and that there's also kind of like no one way to do it. I think it's super cool when I flip through it and I can see different styles. So I definitely have different sticker styles, even in my sticker style. I have Tombow moments. I have paint moments. I love my paint moments. I think working with paint when I can is just something that makes me so happy in this journal. I am on year 3 of 5. There are a lot of gaps. I have been asked, like, hey, are you going to go back and like fill it all in? Yes and no. Especially in like the last quarter of the year, and especially when we get down into holiday season, there's a lot of blanks, and I kind of have to be okay with that, because in all honesty, like, so much is usually going on at that time. And while I can kind of consult old planners and things like that, I don't always feel like I get the best interpretation of maybe what would have happened that day. Like, I can kind of gloss over it, but one thing that I do try to include as much as I can in my Hobonichi is kind of how I feel. I feel like that's something I really miss from having the daily pages of Hobonichi, and sometimes it's not enough space when I'm doing the 5-year. So I always encourage people to do a 5-year because I think it's a great experience. I feel like if you're open to it and you're open to seeing your life over 5 years, ups, downs, goods, bad, and ugly, do it. You may think you are, and then you may find out really quick that you're not, just saying. But I think it's a really great experience. And I look forward to kind of showcasing my Hobonichi as an example, but also kind of share in that journey with you guys. I think that it's super fun in general. So I hope you guys are liking these videos. But like I said, I really love when I can pull out my paints. My paints are a mix between Daniel Smith, Jane Davenport, and Aloha Watercolors. I think that's Aloha Watercolors. Now I'm questioning myself a little bit. If there's a particular color in the palette that you want to know about, I'm happy to share. I just definitely can't like write it all down. And I don't think that I ever show the full palette on this video or in many videos, because it is a pretty large palette. And I love that. To be honest, I love how much paint I have, and that I do kind of have a good little range right now. So we're going to do 3 spreads in this video. The first 2 are paint and a lot of time. The last one is going to go super quick because I was super done by the time I got to the end of this. Normally when I do these videos, I do try to keep in mind that I don't want it to run on forever, but I also kind of want to give you guys a good example at the same time. So these spreads took about an hour and a half, I think. But you're waiting for paint to dry, which is kind of comical, but you really are. And if I was doing this in real time and not filming it, I doubt it would have taken me so long, because I would have probably been doing something in the interim. Like, I might have been working on something in my planners at the coffee table while I watch a movie or something like that. I might be cleaning around the house, and just as I walk by, if I notice that something's dry enough to throw another layer on, I will. But with this, I was kind of like, I do a whole layer and then like go to work and come back. So this was also filmed over about 3 days because I was also having some really bad sinus pressure headaches, which sucked so bad. But I really did enjoy, again, pulling out my paints because I don't get to do it that often, even if it took me a couple days. So now let's just kind of get into the nitty gritty of what I did on Ostara. So one thing that I love about Ostara is the fact that it is a witchy Sabbath that happens over my birthday. Like, you cannot be happier than that. And I love spring, and it was so nice because I did end up being able to have my actual birthday off. So Ostara starts on the 20th, and I decided to kick it off with morning meditation. Made at home, quote unquote, which really I just took all the ingredients that I needed and took them to the office and put them in my big Disney iridescent cup. And it felt so awesome because it was the first thing that I've had to drink out of that cup. The DIY part did not go to plan because the one that I'm mimicking it after is from First Watch, and it's really pretty when you get it because the beet juice mixture kind of like sits at the top and it looks so pretty where like the layers are very clearly defined, and mine did not go like that. It just like all mixed and was a mess. One thing about the morning meditation that I kind of have a love-hate with is I think it's the turmeric in it that basically it kind of curbs my appetite. And I haven't like researched into that very much, but it means that I can kind of skip breakfast. And because I had made such a large portion for Ostara, I was not really that hungry. But I did wake up stupid early that morning because I wanted to make a lot of things. And I'm kind of quirky in that way that I do really take cooking and eating very, very seriously through Sabbath season because I really enjoy being a kitchen witch and just like getting into that groove and baking and cooking and eating with full intention. And I try to like pack as much in there as possible. That's not to say that my quiche was not delicious 3 days later when I was still eating it. That's not to say that it lost any magical abilities in that time frame. But I am very serious about just kind of trying to get as much done in those days as possible. So I got up and I made miniature quiches. So I did spinach, bacon, cheese, and I feel like there was something else in them. But the main thing to keep in mind is obviously Ostara is very similar to Easter. Easter actually gets a lot of its symbolism and traditions, and they kind of, the Christian culture did take quite a bit from Ostara and roll it all into Easter. So you'll see a lot of similar themes. So some things that I thought were really cute is obviously use a lot of eggs. So I made miniature quiches, like I said. And then bunnies are also a really big deal at this time. So I actually colored some white chocolate orange and dipped strawberries in them. And so they looked like little carrots, which I thought were super cute and ended up being a good gift to some people as well. And another thing that I kind of did that was on theme was I made bird's nest. So if you've ever had a haystack, that's kind of what it is. Haystacks are, you take chow mein noodles, like the crunchy noodles, and then you mix melted butterscotch, and a little bit of peanut butter. And some people do chocolate, some people do a lot of peanut butter. It's totally dealer's choice, whatever works for you. And I just kind of I did like a little batch. And then thankfully there's a bunch of different companies. So if Whoppers are not your favorite candy in the whole wide world, they're not exactly my favorite candy, but they are my favorite candy to use for bird's nests. And so you make the little haystack and then you put like a couple robin's eggs in the center. And, so it looks like a little baby bird's nest, which I like the Whoppers ones the best. I know there's like some Double Bubble brands. I think Cadbury has their own now. Everybody's coming to it. And I know some people do them with jelly beans. For me, I just feel like the Whoppers look the most authentic. So that's the ones I went with. So obviously there's a lot of fertility going on with eggs and bunnies and things like that. There was also protection elements with not just my quiche that had spinach in it, but I also did roasted potatoes at dinner. And potatoes are also really great for grounding. So I did roasted potatoes with lamb meatballs. So lamb is definitely a seasonal thing. Usually lambs are being born about that time. And so that's kind of I feel really bad saying that that's like a seasonal cuisine at that time. So this was actually my first time cooking with lamb, and we made a lot of lamb through Ostara. So Jeff could not, Jeff definitely supports my witchy journey, and he loves cooking. So he kind of got in on this one merely because he was like, oh, you cook lamb, I want to cook lamb. So he cooked some lamb chops for us on the last day of Ostara, which we'll get to that when we get to that spread. But I opted to make lamb meatballs. I really would like to do maybe a lamb burger at some point, but I felt like this would be a good way to try out that blend first and foremost. And I was really pleased with it. I thought it went really well. And then I served it with a Greek salad. Again, this is spring, so you definitely want to start bringing in that green. So we had spinach, olives, and feta. Basically, think about like a Greek plate. So maybe if for Ostara, you're not like in a position where you can work, but you can pick out some Greek takeout, do it. I'll also say this all went really quickly. Like, you could definitely put those lamb meatballs in the oven along with your roasted potatoes and throw a Greek salad together pretty quickly. So I feel like that's a very easy, I am very low energy when I get home from work on Mondays and Tuesdays. If you guys have hung out for a while, then you'll know Tuesdays. I fucking hate Tuesdays. Because at that point, I've usually been at the office 2 full days and 2 full days of peopling and full appointments and it's a lot, those first 2 days. And so I am craving that remote day on Wednesday. So this week was obviously a little different because I was in the office, but I knew I got to be off the next day. So, and I'd gotten up early to cook. So I can honestly say that that meal for a dinner on a work night is actually really attainable. I would definitely say it's involved, but it wasn't that bad. It went pretty quick. And so that was the first day of Ostara, and it was honestly a really great start. It felt very full. I was super happy with how everything turned out and everything I kind of like squashed in there. As far as for all the headings and stuff that you see me doing, I use my Tombow Furunosuke. This is the soft tip. I do end up using the hard tip to do the Aries, the numbers, that you see on that right-hand page. And I freaking smudged it, and I was mad. Oh, I was so mad. And that's how I could tell, like, that's definitely a difference in me, is like when things start to get smudgy, it's usually because I'm starting to get overtired and I'm getting annoyed and I'm ready to move on because I feel like something's taking forever. And like I said, because of the headaches, these took me 3 days to do. Normally this would definitely be a 1-day project, and I would have definitely like done a more elaborate Ostara on the last page, especially with the fact that like Jeff cooked. But thankfully I just kind of stickers to the rescued it, and it turned out okay. It definitely is very mild in comparison to these first 2 pages. So as you can see me working on what, I don't know, I hope it looks like a super cute little ram. So Aries starts on March 21st. So I am the first day of Aries. That is a very prominent sun sign in my life. I do definitely identify with my Aries side. Being the fact that I am a Dateline baby kind of throw some interesting things into the mix, and the fact that my mom's birthday is it is 10 days before mine does make life really interesting, because even though astrologically I feel like you can identify with your traits and your signs, I do think hereditary tendencies can come through just as smooth, and I do see them quite frequently between her and I, especially now that I'm getting older. It is very interesting to see our similarities. But I decided to use my super cute James Burke Creative stamp. This is one of my favorite stamps to use. This is actually is this the smaller one? I think this is the smaller one. And I think it's called the Cutie Pie stamp set. I don't even know if he has it anymore. I should go look though, and put a link in the description. But it is one of my favorite stamps to use. I think she's super cute, and I always love the fact that she's kind of like a little chunky, and she's just super cute and squishable. I've used her for the Grinch in the past. It's just, like I said, I just love that stamp. And then I just kind of draw my design over it. All in all, I do like how she turned out. I could feel myself getting frustrated with her because the horns weren't matching. I definitely think the right side turned out better than the left side. I was getting really pissed with my gel pen because thankfully I did pick up a new one at Michael's yesterday, but still I was so annoyed because for whatever reason, it's like just not flowing like it should. And this is the first one. And I always use the Signo Uniball white and broad, and I've never had an issue until this one. And this one has just been a pain, and really I should just chuck it and start fresh. But I'm still powering through trying. And then I decided to kind of doodle paint the tarot spread that I chose to use for Ostara. So I really liked the titles. It was the yolk, the shell, the crack, the sun, the song, the wing. And obviously there's like a follow-up question going on with that for you to investigate. So I really like how that turned out. I don't know that I would have put them as close to her if I did it again. So, because now I kind of have some like weird gaps. I do like how my little recipe cards turned out. So obviously I'm doing some journaling in there and I'm not putting an actual recipe. One is for a lemon buttercream cake. So my granny gave me her buttercream recipe, and I definitely need to keep working on it because it was not perfect, but I did kind of like a rustic cake. And then I decided to put strawberries on top of the frosting. When I do this again, I will 100% try to put maybe like a jam or something in there with it. It just didn't. I think with the rustic element, something got lost. My boyfriend loved it. He absolutely loved the cake. I was just not a fan. And I think it's because it just wasn't what I envisioned. Even though it looked like it was supposed to, it didn't taste like I wanted it to. So I'll have to work on the frosting a little bit. This is where I end up smudging everything underneath that damn paper towel. Oh, I was so mad. But yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I thought it was more hilarious that I was like, I'm going to save money and I'm going to make my own birthday cake. And I promise you, I spent more money than if I had just gone and gotten like a slice of cake. I really was not in the mood to spend a lot of money. We really didn't do much for Jeff's birthday back in October. And so I really didn't want to do anything, partly for that reason and partly because I just wasn't in the mood. I think I'm trying to remember if I did. No, I did, because I haven't done that spread yet. I was trying to think if I had done a video for something, talking about where I actually kind of celebrated my birthday. I chose to kind of do my birthday on St. Patty's Day. I had the day off and I went down to Ponce Market, which is my favorite Friday off activity, and I did my favorite things. I'll have a video about that. We can chat through that because that's just a one-day video and I can handle that. But I went to Ponce and I took Jeff along with me for that, and that ended up being kind of expensive. So I really just didn't want to do another expensive day. I have really big plans for my 33rd, so I really did not want to do much for this one. And I know that's a year off, but still, it just seemed silly because I was more into celebrating Ostara than I was my birthday this year. And I was fine with that. I was completely fine with that. So I didn't want a lot of pomp and circumstance. So Jeff asked me where I wanted to eat, and I told him that it took a little bit of convincing, but I was like, no, let's just stay home. And if you really are so inclined, like, cook for me. And one of my favorite things that he makes is this Tuscan chicken pasta, and he does such a great job with it. And he made that, and I was just perfectly content to have that as my dish. And so that's why there's kind of like 2 recipe cards, because those were kind of the 2 big recipes of the day. I was still kind of snacking on everything from the day before, you know, so I had plenty of quiche left over and strawberries. So there was plenty of other things kind of taking place. This is me fighting with that stupid, oh my God, I was so mad. And as far as the black pen that I'm using, I am using my Uniball Signo DX in 0.38. It is super duper duper fine point, and I freaking love it. I always get kind of nervous like when I start getting into the finishing aspects of these super cute designs, because I feel like all of a sudden they can sometimes get a little weird or quirky. So like, again, I'm not super happy with how the horns turned out on the left side, but I have to kind of like live with it. And then I was not all 100% certain with like coloring in her feet black. There were just like little things where I can tell I would have been better if I had just like slowed down and calmed down, and maybe not been so frustrated. Oh, look, my hair's all in the way. But yeah, I was definitely just starting to get ornery and frustrated. The last page is super quick, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of talk about it a bit. So it was the last day of Ostara. It was really weird because I had procrastinated doing all the stuff with my car. So getting my registration done, and I have to get my emissions done with my car at this point, make sure that that was okay. I needed an oil change because when I went to get an oil change a couple weeks before this, there was somebody stuck in their bay. It was a whole thing. So I had some errands to run, and then I also needed to go to the post office, and the office needed some attention. So it was more of me being out and about most of the day. So I just use a couple Coffee Monster Co. stickers to plop down as I discuss that. So you'll see that on the next page. And then, oh, I really love how those recipe cards turned out. They just are so stinking cute on that page. Oh, but then I headed to Jeff's, and like I said, Jeff could not have me make lamb and him not make lamb. And so he did the lamb chops and I did the sides. So I made us some Gouda mashed potatoes, and I did some wilted spinach and sauteed mushrooms, and we put some feta kind of in the middle of that. So it was super good. It was really homey and wonderful. I definitely feel like I checked all the lamb boxes. We've also had lamb steaks, I think is what they were called. And I think overall, out of everything, that's been my favorite. I do, and even though I do eat things like deer from time to time, and you know, I think duck is one of my favorite things to eat when I can get it. And that's really, really rare. I am open to other things, but I'm still a traditional gal that just loves chicken and beef sometimes. But overall, I think it was a really good Ostara. It was definitely really calm, which is funny because my next Sabbath was a hot mess. But I do hope Beltane was a hot mess. And I am definitely looking forward to Letha. So drop comments down below if you have any questions. Let me know what you did for Ostara. What are you planning for Letha? Are you liking these videos? Tell me all the things. I really love to get the feedback from the videos because it helps me plan content. And even if you like a particular style of video and I don't get to it for like another month or something, it definitely helps me plan. So again, I hope you guys are enjoying these. I hope you guys are all doing very well, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Until then, I hope you all are being happy and healthy and enjoying creating your own little wonderlands. Bye, everybody.